Inside the locker room here at FBC Mortgage Stadium, the Bounce House, and UCF head coach Scott Frost with us. We'll talk about coming back, what lies ahead, and a look forward to the 2025 season for UCF football. Do you remember when you learned when this job opened?
I actually had a heads up before the job opened. I heard it might open, and that got my wheels spinning, I guess, before the job even opened. And that was probably nice because it gave Ashley and I a chance to talk about the opportunity and what we would do if it happened.
There had to be a moment there where it just kind of hits you and you have to wonder, could these stars align again, right?
Yeah, it's not very often you get to go back and to a place that you've been and kind of start over. Usually when roads diverge in yellow wood, right, you're never going to come back. It's unusual. I think it's awesome to have a chance to return. And I think the biggest compliment for UCF is how much we loved it and wanted to be back. And probably a big compliment for me is, you know, when you do things well in a place, then people want you back. And it's probably not very often that you separate from a place and feelings are strong both ways that you get an opportunity to come back. So we're grateful.
Is there a moment in the process before you're chosen that you kind of wonder, wow, am I coming down this path and it may not happen?
Yeah, I think so. You know, our prayers, Ashley and my prayers, were if it's meant to be that we get offered the job, and if it wasn't meant to be, that we wouldn't have the opportunity. And the opportunity presented itself, and I think at that point we were both of like-minded that if the opportunity came, we were going to take it.
On the flight here, is there any moment where it just kind of hits you like, we're going to land, I'm going to get off the plane, and I'm back?
To be honest, I was so tired and dead on my feet that day. You know, I was working in Los Angeles and actually went to the hotel with the team the night before a Buffalo Bills game and said goodbye to the guys I was working with. And I think we had to get up at 4 or something in the morning to get on a plane to get from LA to Phoenix so I could get a few things to bring to Orlando with me. And then we flew straight from Phoenix to Orlando. My kids were going to come with me on the flight, and 2 of them were under the weather, so they didn't come. So Ashley and I landed, and it was a lot right when we stepped foot in Orlando. So it was such a long day that I was kind of just going through the motions. I was so tired, but it was like deja vu being back on campus.
I want to do a couple things. You mentioned the Rams. Tell me what that opportunity meant with Sean McVay and to kind of be part of that group there.
Yeah, that's a special place. I'm so grateful to that group of guys, particularly Sean and Les Snead, for giving me an opportunity to go just be a small part of it this year. And it really, more than anything for me, it got my mojo back. It reignited my passion for football after being out for a little bit, and kind of got me back on my feet. And I don't think I'd be attacking this the way that I am if I hadn't had that opportunity to kind of rejuvenate and get ready to go after something else.
You return now with the family, 3 kids, and I'm curious, there has to be moments where young kids remind us to pause and enjoy moments, you know, whether they just look up to dad and want to hug and so forth. How has that changed you now and puts a different perspective on things?
You know, one of my first messages to my team every year when we get ready for training camp is football is what we do and we all love it. And I want our entire team to be passionate about it and work as hard as we possibly can. But I always remind them football's not life. And I think as a husband and a father with 3 kids now, you go home, that's a constant reminder that as important as we think it is all day, there's more important things in life than just a practice or a game. We're going to pour our heart and soul into it, but I think you come at it from a more powerful place when it's not the number one thing in your life. You don't get eaten up and ride the wave of every high and every low when there's more solid things in your life.
Tell me about putting a staff together. I'm sure you thought about it, and then you had to get to work, and the group of guys that you wanted here And then also a little bit about former players and why that's important to have them around here too.
Yeah, we're getting close to being done with staff. There's still a couple pieces that I'd like to bring on board. Um, it was unusual this time for me because the times before I could see the job coming a ways away and kind of had an idea about staff already before I took the job. This time, I wasn't looking to get a head coaching job and I wasn't expecting it. So kind of got on campus without a fixed idea of who those staff members were going to be. And I think in a lot of ways that's good. Coaching's like any other business. Sometimes you just hire the people you know. I didn't want to do that this time. I wanted to try to get the best that I could. And we ended up with some guys that I didn't know previously that I'm really excited to have on staff. So I think it's a better way to go through it, but I felt a little unprepared when I first got to campus.
And the former players, and let me ask you specifically about McKenzie and him coming here and being a part of this as he grows now as a coach, as well as the other former players.
Yeah, to compliment McKenzie, I think the reason that I wanted him here is different than the majority of people that follow UCF. Obviously, he meant a lot to this program and this city and this community, and everybody knows him here. That's great. I wouldn't have hired him if I didn't think he was going to be a really good coach. I got the opportunity to coach in a high school all-star game, and McKenzie came out and coached with me, and I was honestly blown away by his level of commitment and knowledge and ability to communicate with young men, his passion for it. A lot of people that play think they want to get into coaching, and there's way fewer that are going to be good at it. And McKenzie's going to be a superstar in this business, just because of what he brings to the table and his ability to connect and reach young people and train them what to do out of a knowledge base. And so I know a lot of people are excited to get the quarterback back. I'm excited about the young coach.
The accidental part of football is what it is. I'm just curious your thoughts as you get back and now how the business of college football has changed and how that impacts you as you build what you want to build.
It's way different. I mean, I think if you ask any coach around the country and got an honest answer, nobody's really happy with the way that things are right now. If that's the game, we have to play it, and we have to try to do the best we can with it. I think it's wonderful that guys have an opportunity to get compensated for what they do and the work they put in and the risk that they're putting their body under every day in practice and in games. I hope there ends up being some better guardrails and parameters around it that make it a little easier. That first month here was wild with the transfer portal and diving headfirst into it kind of late in the game, to be honest with you. I think the staff that we have and the recruiting guys that we have, Coach Love especially, those guys really helped me get through it this first year, and we're going to try to come up with some strategies and plans for it to maximize what we can do at UCF.
Your vision of the roster you want to build by recruiting in high school and then using the portal to however you view it. I mean, do you feel you got a better grasp of that now? And you know, one thing I've heard a lot of coaches talk about is we got to get back to developing players. And yet in a portal world, a lot of people look at plug and play. Do you have an idea about that vision on how you want to build it?
Yeah, I think we have a vision for how we'd like to do it. It's never perfect. You can have an idealistic view of how you want it to be built and done, and then the reality hits you. And the reality that hit me when I first got here was we had about 50 players, give or take, and we needed 85. So we had a lot to work to do in the portal just to have enough players on the team to have a good player at every position and go through spring ball. You know, long term, we'd like to build it more organically. And I think one of the challenges for us as we're building to where I would like to see it from a foundation is realistically every team that you have every year is more of a one-year team than you've ever had before when you recruited and got a chance to spend 4 or 5 years with young men in the program. And I think the team building aspect of it and trying to get a group of guys that are coming together for the first time and may not know each other and know everybody and trying to turn that collection of individuals into a team, it's even more of a challenge now, but I think the importance of that is even greater. And if you're able to do that, I think it's an advantage.
You can't go back to 2017, but are there some things of that team that you apply or can apply in your message and how you build a team?
Oh yeah, a lot of our sayings and buzzwords and lessons and everything that we approached our team with last time are going to stay the same this time. Obviously, it's a completely different group of kids. That's quite a ways in the past now, but I think in inspiring young men and coaching and motivating through inspiration instead of intimidation is how I want it done around here. And we're going to try to have meetings and challenges for the guys and try to pour into them, not just as football players, but as young people too. And I think when they see that we're along the ride with them on that, I think it brings everybody closer together. I think our guys can already feel it, that they have a coaching staff that genuinely cares about them and wants to help them on and off the field, and shared experiences like that bring everybody closer together.
It'll be year 3 in the Big 12, which is evolving now in the makeup of teams that are there. But there was a jump from a G5 to now a Power 4. Your thoughts on how you build a team to compete in this league that may have been different than when we were in the American. I think fans and people saw the quality of linemen, the toughness and things like that. As you take a look at the makeup of this conference, your thoughts on the conference and the type of team that maybe you need to build to compete for championships.
Yeah, I don't want to be a broken record, but I have a ton of respect for the Big 12. I was in the first 2 years of the Big 12, so it have a good, soft place in my heart for the conference in general. UCF shouldn't have to take a backseat to anybody now, in-state or otherwise, in recruiting, because we're playing big boy football now. I really like the Big 12 conference, having watched it from afar. I think it's probably arguably the most even league in the country. And again, without sounding like a broken record, I think you can make a case for any team in this league that if they did things the right way, they could win the league. I coached against several of the teams that used to be in the Pac-12, Utah, and coached against BYU and Arizona State. You can make an argument that they could win the league, any of them. Obviously played and coached against Iowa State and Kansas State and Kansas and Oklahoma State, and you can make arguments they could win it. And Houston, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF. There's no reason that any one of those teams, if I left anybody out, I apologize, but there's no reason any one of those teams can't compete for this, and you can make an argument that any of them could win it, and that makes for a fun brand of football to me.
We were talking before about 2017, but UCF fast in a way evolves, and I've heard you comment a couple of times that the game has evolved, and now you got to help your defense out sometimes. But what's your thoughts on that as this game has evolved? Where I think around the nation, a few teams have taken their foot off the pedal offensively because you got to help your defense out. What's your thoughts on that?
Everything's cyclical in football. Usually, if you think of something that you think's new, somebody did it 30 years ago. But I agree with you. I think the ultra fast-paced tempo, it was in vogue for a while. I think it's kind of out. I think teams are doing it a little different now. A lot of teams caught up, and then a lot of teams were doing that, and now it's kind of morphing a different direction. Still think there's a place for it. We got to figure out the best formula that works here. And one thing I know is the speed that we can get in Florida is going to help us on offense and defense. And when we talk about complementary football, what that looks like for UCF in terms of what style of play we're going to employ on offense, defense, and on teams.
What do you think your advantages are here? And I mean, Orlando and at UCF. And what are advantages that you now use?
Well, location's number one. It's just incredible for me. I did it, about 3 weeks of recruiting or whatever we had in January, and I did it by car, and I drove myself. There's so much talent right around here, and we want to keep as many of those kids home as we can. Even in the portal, there's kids that have left Florida that I think would rather be playing closer to home and closer to family, and that just gives us a great recruiting base, and arguably the best recruiting base in the country to draw from. We're obviously going to go try to get the best kids we can at every position, regardless of the location or where they're from. But when you got those kind of kids in your backyard, I think it gives you a big advantage.
they're touching the stadium up, and it's going to change a little bit over the couple of years. But the bounce house to you meant and means what as you embark here in 2025?
I just think it's a cool environment. I'm glad to see there's a waiting list for season tickets now. I think my first year here, I started delivering pizzas to people on campus and sorority houses, and the AD then requested that I do that just to try to get more people in the stadium. We're way past that now, which is awesome. The growth that I see, I have a unique perspective, having been here and left and coming back now 7 or 8 years later, and just seeing how far UCF has come. And I think we're just scratching the surface. Academically and from a resource standpoint, from an alumni-based standpoint, I have a lot of wild imagination about what UCF can become, and seeing the progress that it's made in the last 7 or 8 years really points to where UCF can go.
Give me some thoughts on now what moves ahead, your roster, what you'd like about it. You brought new players in. You'll get a spring practice going. Kind of what lies ahead now for you and the football team?
Well, anytime you're in year one, there's a lot of teaching. Guys are learning new ways of doing things. They're learning new ways to do it in the weight room. They're learning schedules, making relationships and getting to know people, from coaches to players they've never played before. The great thing is now that recruiting's done, I get to be a coach for the first time really since I've been in Orlando, and start developing those relationships and teaching our scheme and teaching our priorities and our standards. And that's the fun part of coaching. And so it's this last week getting around the players and being able to see them work in the weight room, and having a few in classroom meetings with them to start teaching them our terminology and language. That's the fun part of coaching, and we have a long way to go. We're just getting started, but the process has begun, and I'm really happy with how far the kids have come so far.
If the model today was in place in 17, you made the playoffs. Do you like the 12-team playoff? It may go to 14 or 16. Do you like that concept here?
Yeah, I would have liked the 12-team playoff in 17, but I think it's
great. Might have
great.
hosted a game back then.
Yeah, I think it's great. We might have a bye.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it gives a lot of different schools something to play for. And, you never want to get involved in something if you don't have an opportunity to achieve at the ultimate level. And I think this playoff system gives everybody an opportunity to dream of that. Now we got to go to work and try to make that a reality someday.
You seem very excited that Orlando's home again. Not just to be here, but to bring your family here and to call this place home. It seems like that really matters to you.
Yeah, I think that was probably the factor that made the decision at the end of the day for us, for Ashley and I, is being able to get to a place that we both absolutely loved living, and being able to put our feet down and have years with raising our kids in one place. And it's hard for me right now. We're letting the kids finish school in Arizona where they've been, so they won't be down till May. So I'm away from family more than I want to be right now. But we're both really looking forward to putting our feet down here and being able to bring our kids up in Orlando.
I know one of the biggest factors coming back here was the ability to get to Wawa often. So can you take me through what might be a typical visit to Wawa for you? What are we going with? Is there a certain food or what?
Yeah, in fact, I have to try to keep myself from stopping there every morning. But just the convenience of that, there's 2 or 3 on the way from where I'm staying right now to campus. And they got ready-made sandwiches and drinks and everything you need in the morning.
Is there a go-to order? Is there a certain sandwich? Or
I kind of mix it up, honestly, just for variety and make sure I'm not getting tired of the same
Are you there that
things.
often that they know you? Is it like, hey, Scott?
No.
Not yet.
Once in a while I get recognized in there, but usually I have my hat down like I do right now and walk in and get my business taken care of and get on to work with a little caffeine and some food in me.
Okay, we got some trivia. You ready?
Fire away.
I'll throw some softballs because I understand that you might have a deep passion for country capitals.
Yeah, I'm decent at that. Yeah.
Okay. Scotland?
Well, Scotland's not actually a country. It's part of the United Kingdom. So You might have to adjust
You'd
your
be great on
questions a little bit.
Jeopardy where you'd stop and go, I don't know, Ken, if that's the right approach. Or can I do Romania?
Yeah, Bucharest, Romania. I've actually been there.
Uganda?
Uh, Kampala,
Bulgaria?
Sofia,
Albania?
Tirana,
Barbados?
Bridgetown,
Nicaragua?
Managua,
Okay. 80s, 90s movie TV questions?
fire away.
16 Candles, remember the movie?
Yeah, Molly Ringwald.
Nickname for Anthony Michael Hall in the movie?
Oh boy. No, Jake was the boyfriend, right?
Yep. Yeah.
No, I don't remember what they call
Farmer
him.
Ted.
Farmer Ted.
Farmer Ted.
That's right.
Yeah. What college, it's a tough one. Alex P. Keaton, Family Ties. Remember what college he went to?
No, I remember watching Family Ties when
Yeah.
I was.
He was at Leland University.
Yeah. Oh, you're
Okay.
you're making these hard. I appreciate that.
Did Bob Sacamano ever appear in an episode of Seinfeld?
No.
Correct. He was never on. In Tommy Boy, who's going to buy Callahan Auto Parts?
Tommy Boy question. I wasn't prepared for this.
Ray
Don't know.
Zelinsky.
Ray Zelinsky. That's
Zelinsky.
right.
Dan Aykroyd played
Dan
Ray
Aykroyd.
Zelinsky.
Yeah.
Okay, these are TV shows in the cities that they were in,
Oh, I like this.
either fictitious or actual city.
Got it.
Okay, Happy Days.
I don't know where Happy Days was.
Home of the Brewers.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Wire.
I have a friend is actually really close with Henry Winkler, so I should know that.
Yeah.
The Wire's Baltimore,
Well,
right?
okay. The Office.
The Office is Pennsylvania.
Scranton.
Scranton, Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah. L.A. Law.
No, Los Angeles.
Streets of San Francisco. Okay, it was a couple of setups right there.
WKRP. I mean, give me some really easy ones.
Murder, She Wrote.
Where was Murder She Wrote?
Yeah, this is a fictitious one.
It's fictitious. It was in Texas, right? No,
Town called Cabot Cove.
Cabot Cove. What?
Cabot Cove. Bonanza.
Tahoe.
Virginia City, Nevada.
Yeah, right around.
Leave It to Beaver.
Can't say I know that.
Mayfield.
Oh yeah.
You ever see Willy Wonka?
I'm not a Willy. I've never seen the movie. Willy
Because I had the
Wonka.
names of the kids, but we won't go there if we're not there. Give me the movie that if it's on, you're going to watch, even if it's 5 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, if it's on, you're watching.
Oh, there's several of those. I always have a list of movies that if I flip by it, I'm going to stop and watch.
Got a comedy or an action?
Well, obviously, like The Gladiator, Saving Private Ryan, Shawshank Redemptions, but probably the one I've stopped and watched the most is Jaws.
The original Jaws?
The original Jaws. I just love the scene where he talks about being on the USS Indianapolis. I think that's some of the best cinema. Some of my favorite cinema ever.
Wow, absolutely impressed. Is there a shirt or hat that will never be thrown out?
Yeah, I wear hats into the ground, so I've got several of those. I have some shirts, I guess, to answer that. Some Chicago Cubs shirts from the first time I was here. They won a World Series the first time I was at UCF, and I always get asked about it, but I have a shirt with the date on it that the Cubs beat the Indians in Game 7, and yeah, that thing's pretty ratty at this point, but I'm not getting rid of it.
When the news got out that you were returning to UCF, of all the text messages you got, give me one or two that you were like, whoa.
Some of the more meaningful ones have been ones that came a little later. I always think when people have major things in their lives, people reach out to them the first day or two after, and then you don't hear from anybody. And sometimes the ones that happen a little later matter. Obviously, getting a text from Sean McVay meant a lot to me, and I can't really emphasize how much that whole experience and the opportunity to do that meant to me. I feel like it got me back on my feet again. So that one meant a lot. Yeah, I'd have to think about some others, but the outpouring was incredible.
It's a long way between now and then. But can you think about opening night when you take your team out of the tunnel down the area from here and return to the bounce house?
Yeah, the experience here so far has been so neat because it's cool and it's new, but it's not new at the same time. Walking back into my office didn't feel strange to me. It felt like it'd been 100 years and yesterday at the same time. I imagine I'll get the same feeling when I walk out of here uh, that it's new, but at the same time I'm right back where I was and probably more comfortable than most things that are new in that situation.